The countdown to UFC 281 is on, and we're only days away from the promotion's biggest pay-per-view of the year going down in the Big Apple. What's up, fight fans? Ron Kruk with Superbook Sports, joined by the number 5 ranked lightweight in the UFC, Michael Chandler, who continues his quest for UFC gold Saturday night against number 2 ranked Dustin Poirier. Michael, I appreciate the time, my man. How excited are you to fight once again in New York City and one of the most iconic arenas on the planet, Madison Square Garden?
Oh, man, it's exciting, Ron. It's good to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
It's always a great opportunity. You know, I always say, and you hear fighters say it, every fight is the biggest fight of your life because it's the next opportunity. This one obviously is no different, but it just so happens that it's at the world's most iconic arena, Madison Square Garden, against the number 2 guy in the world, who a perennial top 3, top 5 guy in Dustin Poirier, whose record and resume speaks for itself. A win against him definitely keeps me in the title picture, and that's the ultimate goal. You know, I do think I'm the guy who would have the wrestling to be able to beat our current champion, Islam. So, man, I'm excited to go out there and compete. Me and my team and training partners and coaches have put together a phenomenal game plan, a phenomenal training camp. Time to go put it on the line.
I know fight fans are very excited about this matchup. It seems like you two have been on a collision course for a little while now. You're both two of the top 155 pounders in the sport for a long time. Now you get to square off in the octagon. Is this a matchup that you've looked forward to, Michael, and knew that at some point you would face Poirier?
Yeah, it is. And, when I had my first meeting with the UFC, it was Hunter Campbell. Sat down, shook his hand, and said, "Hey, Hunter, 2 things. Number 1, I want to be a good thing for your organization. And number 2, I want to come in and prove against the best guys in the world that I either am who I say I am or I'm not. And I don't want to tiptoe outside the top 10, top 20. I want to come in right away, get a top 5 guy, and then if I, sink or swim essentially. And then obviously, you've seen over the last 4 fights fighting the top 5 guys nonstop,
right? The
who's who of mixed martial arts in the lightweight division. So, this Poirier fight is just another quest to continue to prove to myself that I am one of the best guys, continue to prove to my supporters, my family, my training partners, all the people that have stood beside me and stood behind me, over the last decade and a half now. I'm 14 years in the sport, and it's been a long career. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of ups, couple downs, but man, these big stages, and that's what the UFC gives you. The UFC gives you a huge platform, and when the lights come on, that's when I feel alive.
As always. And what I like, there are several storylines coming into this fight as well. You two have several ties to each other. You trained with one of his former coaches and some of his teammates. So give us some details about that. And do you feel that those experiences, Michael, will benefit you in this fight?
Not necessarily benefit me, but it is funny, just to give some context. I think, I think to the general average fan, they think the mixed martial arts world is so big because of what the UFC has been and how big they've built this entire sport of mixed martial arts since 1993. We're talking touching every corner of the globe. But if you really boil it down, it's a pretty small community. And, case in point, a couple of years ago, I had my big brother, Ben Askren, my big brother, Tyron Woodley, guys I wrestled with in college. Both were, like I said, my big brothers, both the guys that got me into the sport. On the same night, they fought Robbie Lawler and Kamaru Usman, my current training partners now.
Crazy.
Poirier training at ATT, Tyron Woodley training at ATT, Kami Barzini, I've known since college wrestling when he coached at Arizona State or Oklahoma State. And then my coach over the last couple of years, he used to coach Dustin at ATT. So it's a worldwide sport and a worldwide promotion, if you will, but it's a very small community, and we all kind of know each other, and we're all 1 degree of separation away from, training partners, coaches, friends, with the guys that we're fighting. And sometimes we fight our friends. Kamaru Usman fighting Gilbert Burns. Those guys trained together.
Great point.
6 months prior to that, so it's a small community. But Dustin Poirier, even if I had never met him or didn't know anybody or have any mutual friends or any mutual connections, his body of work speaks for itself. 20-something fights in the UFC. There's a ton of tape on him. He's a perennial top guy, and he's a guy that you got to knock off and beat in order to continue to prove that you want to be the lightweight champion.
Absolutely. Both of you, veteran fighters, a lifetime of cage experience. I also love the stat that you guys – you know how to end a fight. I was blown away when I saw this. You have a combined 39 career finishes. I mean, that is what fight fans love about both of your styles. As you look at the matchup, is there one area, Michael, where you feel you have the edge?
I think I have the edge in the power department. I think Poirier has the edge in the punches and bunches category. You know, he's known as a kind of a slick boxer who's able to hit with accuracy and hit more volume, whereas I'm a guy who throws less punches with more power. Grappling department, I think obviously with my Division I wrestling background, I think I have an edge in the wrestling and grappling department.
Right.
But one thing that can't be discounted is the will of a man. And when you look at Dustin Poirier, he's unbreakable. He's got a will of a champion. So it's going to be a tough, hard fought battle. This is going to be I know exactly who I'm fighting, and it's a guy that scares me. It's a guy that keeps me, wakes me up in the morning and wants me to train hard. And that's right where I want to be. My heart is full. I have a huge opportunity ahead of me, and still a lot of tread left on these tires to go out there and win that UFC title. But I have to get through Dustin Poirier here in 7 days.
Well, Michael, we in the media, we love a good verbal altercation. And you two got into one back at UFC 276. Is there some friction between you two, or the media, are we trying to create another storyline? And I mean, feel free to unload on the guy if that's what you want to do.
No, I think it's been a blossoming relationship, if you will. There's a lot of layers to it. I think originally it started with a ton of mutual respect. We met each other, high five. Hey man, big fan of you. Hey, big fan of YouTube. Been following you for years. Then it was, I came into Abu Dhabi and we had a lot of really good cordial interaction when he was fighting Connor and I was making my debut against Dan Hooker. Then he said some things and I said some things that made us both say, wait a second, I don't know if I like this guy that much. And I respect Dustin Poirier. His line that essentially his justification for why the altercation happened was, hey, if I see a guy in person, that's when I'm going to do my talking. And that's when I'm going to say my piece. I'm not going to say something about a guy. When I see him in person, I'm going to tell him how I feel about him. Turns out at that UFC event, he wanted to tell me exactly how he felt about me with his finger in my face. And a month or so later, this fight got booked. But either way, it all boils down to him and I climbing the same mountain, trying to get to the top, and me trying to push him back, and him trying to pull me back to scrape and claw to get to that top of that mountain before the other guy does. And like you said, we've been on a collision course since the very beginning of me coming into the UFC. He's a guy that it will be an honor to compete against, and I can't wait to go out there and put on a show for the fans.
As we're wrapping up, it doesn't happen often, but you are coming in as the underdog into this fight, according to superbook.com. Current odds have you as a plus 150, and the former interim champion is minus 170. What's your reaction to those odds, and do you like being the underdog?
I don't mind being the underdog. Truthfully, I've been the underdog in essentially every single one of my fights. And even in the last one, I believe I wasn't the underdog against Tony Ferguson. But you see it all over the media. You see it all. They do these Instagram polls. I know you can't go judge everything by Instagram, but it's funny. I'll get tagged in these Instagram polls and I'll click on it and be like 92% Poirier, 8% Chandler. And it's like, all right, both of them have me as the guy who has like a 27% chance of winning. So I've kind of embraced it. You got to realize too, the guy who's been seen more and has a longer track record in the organization is always going to get the nod when it comes to the odds most of the time. Of course. Poirier's just been a top guy forever. So I don't let it get to me. He's a guy with 2 arms and 2 legs, my weight, and we both have the same goal. And I'm pretty well-versed in hand-to-hand combat. I've been doing it since I was 14 years old. So I'm excited to go out there and compete under the bright lights of Madison Square Garden and hopefully get my hand raised and then get a title shot after that.
Well, fight fans, this is the time to get to superbook.com. Sign up, download the app, because Superbook is offering a massive UFC 281 knockout special. Place a wager of $81 or greater on the money line on any fights, the entire card, and you'll receive a $10 bonus voucher for every knockout, TKO, and DQ that occurs. Or This is where it gets fun. Double your money and your wager to 162 or greater and receive a $20 voucher for every knockout, TKO, and DQ. And if you do double your wager, you will receive one entry into the UFC 281 Michael Chandler MMA gloves giveaway. Michael was kind enough to sign a pair of gloves for this awesome giveaway. This includes every fight on the prelims and the main card. Michael, I know you're going to be working on Saturday night, but there looks like there's going to be some bangers on this card. Do you see some knockouts going down in the Big Apple?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a ton of great cards. I mean, obviously, when the UFC comes to Madison Square Garden, they try to assemble, one of the biggest cards of the year. Obviously, the 2 title fights, Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. That's got bad blood all over it. They have a ton of history. Obviously, you mentioned me and Poirier both having, 39 combined finishes.
Correct. Yeah.
Knockouts. As you said, I will be working, but I'm also going to be trying to work for the Superbook bettors as well, trying to get myself a knockout to win everybody $10 or $20 if you double your bet. So it's a great fight card. I am blessed to be a part of it and cannot wait to go out there and compete. So everybody get your bets in. And if you feel so inclined, bet on your boy because I'm coming for the knockout.
And look at that shirt. Well done. Well representing today, my man.
Let's go.
Michael Chandler, thanks again for the time. And thank you for the autographed glove contest. Best of luck at UFC 281.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ron. Appreciate it.
You bet.